By clicking the link in the stream's description. The professor wants to hear from you.
Beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul, good karma.
Yeah. Woo! Woke up with a vision, it's Professor Bear's day. Ruling the game, coming hard, paving his way. Thoughtful and smart, yeah, the wisdom amassed. In a world full of shadows, he's breaking the cast.
Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I am Professor Bird and you have joined us at A Bird's Thought. And today is a special day and I am joined by my tag team partner from the B&B show, Blade. Blade, what's going on?
What's up, Bear? It's weird being here on a Wednesday, man, but I'll get used to it.
I know. So we have a very, very special guest today. He is the owner from the Joe Cazana Promotions, a legend around these parts. Yes, indeed. He is also a part of the NWA. It is Mr. Joe Cazana. Mr. Cazana, how are you today?
Guys, I'm doing great. How are you folks doing?
Doing wonderful.
Good. And I think we were talking earlier. You're in my hometown right now.
Yes, sir. Born and raised. So
where'd you go to high school?
Austin East.
I went to Fulton.
See? Oh, dang.
right across Broadway, man. Right across Broadway. A lot of us came out of Fulton. Myself, Buddy Landell, the Dirty White Boy. I mean, we all came out of Fulton High School.
Yes. And one of the things that I love about you and your promotion and everything is at a point in my life where I was just kind of down and out and I love wrestling all my life. And the first time I realized that your promotion was around was an NWA show. And
which one was it?
I'm trying to think. It was the first taping that the NWA did here in quite some time.
Always Ready.
Yes.
At the Knoxville Convention Center. Yeah.
And
that was a good show.
Yeah, it was. It was. And I was just about to have back surgery, so I was not moving that great. And me and my fiance had to sit down, and we sat down, and just so happened where I sat down, it was next to KC.
Oh, okay.
And
that was long before he ever started wrestling.
Yeah. So I got to speak with him, and I was messing with him. I was like, hey, I could be your bodyguard, man. I'm a pretty big boy. And he just kind of laughed at me. And
Who would have thought? Who would have thought a year and a half later?
Yes. And funny enough, ran into him in a Kentucky show.
Oh my goodness.
And the best part about it was me and my buddy Joe Monroe, we were sitting there and he saw me. And I'm like, and he just started talking crap in the ring, pointing, and he took his tape off, balled it up, and he slung it at me. Now I'm sitting there thinking like, who in the hell was he throwing it at? And my buddy's like, oh, he knows who you are. I'm like, man, come on. He sees thousands of wrestling fans. They ain't gonna remember me. Well, a little later, we happened to see him setting up his merch stand. So we went over there, and Joe said, see, I told you he knew you. And he said, yeah, I know you. He's like, every time I go to different wrestling, I see you plus your logo. He said, yeah, and there's not too many guys bigger than me. So I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
he is
something else.
Yes, he is. He's a great guy. And man, he's like, hey, let me know. I would be glad to do the show and stuff. I'm like, okay. And then our friend Amy reached out to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, yes, yeah. I'm like, okay, we can get it set up.
Yeah, she's one of the few people I'd actually do something for. That's when you get to be my age and you get to be that bitter old wrestler that I am. Of course, Austin Island and myself, we talk about it constantly. We're both getting older. We're both getting just meaner and nastier, and we got this mean streak, and we just got this attitude that we just don't care. But no, Amy is actually, she reached out to me, and I think she reached out to the boys too. Unfortunately, the boys are actually working out of town this evening, so maybe we can get them on here next week after, or whatever. But I mean, we're getting ready to go into Hard Times 5, and they're kind of, getting really prepared for that. So that's one thing that we're getting prepared for is Hard Times.
Yes,
we're going to go beat the hell out of the Southern Six. I'm so sick and tired. Here's the thing. We are the NWA United States Tag Team Champions. We are the number one contenders to Murdoch and Knox and their NWA World Tag Team Championships. But for some reason, Trevor and Mike, they don't acknowledge that. The NWA doesn't want to acknowledge that unless I bring it up. That's, unfortunate. I remember another United States Tag Team Champion, a set of them back in the mid to late 80s. You may know them, the Midnight Express.
Yes.
Jim Cornette and myself are pretty good friends, and I've spoken with him about this, and it's like, what's it going to take to get the respect that we deserve? It's like we're getting ready to also go into one of the biggest tag team tournaments that the NWA has in Crockett Cup. Being the United States Tag Team Champions, I don't expect to be the number one seed. I truly don't. I fully expect Murdoch and Knox to be number one, but I also see us being number two. I'll accept nothing less.
Definitely.
If the NWA, brass is looking at this right now, they're going to say, well, Joe Cazana, you can want in one hand and what in the other, see what fills up quicker. But no, I mean, all BS set aside. Amy asked us about doing the show, and I was happy to help out. I mean, you're a hometown boy, so
yes, sir.
I'll definitely help out the Knoxvillians anytime I can.
I want to tell a quick story about the first time I met you in person, and it was actually the show that they announced that you had joined the NWA when y'all did the it was Carnes High School.
Okay, that was the Back to the Territory show.
Yes, sir.
We were already in NWA territory by then. We
Right.
were announced December of the year before, so we were announced. What was it? December of 2023, I think it was, and then 2024 is when we were at Carnes High School. Had a great crowd that night, I think.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It was packed.
Yeah.
I had actually walked up and I felt bad, but it was the only time I knew I could meet you face to face. I had pulled you aside and like, hey, sir, I had talked to you about maybe getting you a couple of your videos, and we had talked about that. And again, you were just a gentleman. You had 1,001 things going on, but you took that time to talk to me. You talked to me not just quickly, but you talked to me and just let me know what was going on. And you're like, hey, don't know this, that, or the other, but I appreciate you. And let me know if there's anything I could do to help you or something. Man, you were just a gentleman, and I always appreciated that.
Well, you're more than welcome. Nowadays, I'm more of that a-hole that I used to be back in the 80s. So, no, like I said, I'll BS aside. I'm glad you had a good time, and and I really don't intermingle with the fans much right now, just because of my persona and what I'm doing. But like I said, for the Knoxville boys, I'll break character. And I saw that little comment that Amy put up there. We need to be her only number one team. Piss on the Southern Six.
So, for people that don't know you and your background, can you tell us a little bit about how you started in the business and how you became to be a promoter?
Sure. Actually, I broke in the business on the day of my birth, because my grandfather was an NWA territory in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And so I got an early start, in the business. I mean, I used to help my granddad. I'd put the ring up, or I'd actually get in the way back in those days. But I mean, he always made me feel like I was doing something. Fast forward a little bit, it was I never really stopped liking professional wrestling. I mean, I always had a interest in it. I always had a love for it. Once I got to high school, though, things changed a little bit. My grandfather had a stroke, and he wasn't, able to do what he once did. He and I went to the old WTVK Channel 26, which was up on Sharps Ridge. Which, if you're from your end of town, like I am with you, you know exactly what Sharps Ridge was good for back then.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
my grandfather and I went up to Sharps Ridge, and I'd actually found an old 9mm reel-to-reel, I guess a VTR is what they used to call it back then. So I wanted to see what was on it, and lo and behold, it was about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours worth of my granddad's television show. So that kind of got me, me back into it a little bit. Fast forward a little more, when he passed away, all the wrestlers would, they came filing through Rose Mortuary, where that is, and they all come through there, and Ron Fuller came through, and I'd known Ron from back in the day when he bought the territory from my grandfather, but he had pulled me to the side, asked me if I ever thought about being a pro wrestler. I said, "Have you lost your mind?" I said, "I don't want to wrestle. I had no intentions of ever wrestling. It just, one of those things. It's like, no, I appreciate it, but no, thank you." And he had asked me, he said, "Well, next week he said, we're doing the Tennessee Heavyweight Championship tournament at the Coliseum. We'd like for you to be there, and we'd like for your grandmother to be there if she's up to it, to present the winner of the tournament with the brand new Tennessee Heavyweight title. So I asked my grandmother, and she said that she would. So we went and did that. And Ron asked me again, and I kept saying no. But this whole time, I had been working on his ring crew, with a couple other fellas, and we'd travel and do the Barberville, Kentuckys, and the Pikeville, Kentuckys, and Morristowns and places like that. We'd go put the ring up and all that stuff. So I had this little gig with him doing that. And that's kind of what I did for quite some time. I did that all through high school. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, like I said, I was just a high school guy. Whenever football season was over, I'd go on tour with Continental Championship Wrestling. But finally, he told me, he said, I'll put you in touch with a local trainer, and we'll get you training. Well, whatever. And I didn't think anything else about it. Well, the next day I get a phone call from a fellow by the name of Rick Connors, who was, he was probably the toughest SOB in the city of Knoxville at the time. And I started training, and I was beat up, cut up, just, if people tell you wrestling is fun, sure, after you've been in it for a while. But I mean, I literally trained in Rick's backyard for the first month. It was 6-7 weeks before we ever saw a wrestling ring. And when we finally saw a wrestling ring, and I tell the story, people think I'm nuts, but this ring, it was an old 16x16 solid wood ring. And it had a vinyl canvas. It had vinyl apron, which in the summertime made it slicker than ice. The ring ropes. Now, you guys have been around wrestling. Have you ever seen plastic ring ropes?
Yes.
These ring ropes were plastic. They were junk. They hurt. And the middle of the ring in the old days, a 16x16 ring had a spring in the middle of it to give it the bounce. This ring had a tree stump in the middle of it. Ain't no bounce to a tree stump. So that was my introduction to professional wrestling, So I ended up doing some independent stuff in the beginning, and my grandmother, bless her heart, she knew I really wanted to do this, and once you do it, it's in your blood. You just can't walk away from it. So she knew I wanted to do it. So Jerry Lawler was coming to Knoxville to wrestle for Fuller. And she picked up the phone and literally called the hotel he was staying at. And I'd been in the wrestling business 8 months at that point. And she had to leave a message for Lawler. Well, 30 minutes later, Jerry called her. 2 days later, I'm wrestling at the Mid-South Coliseum. And that was interesting. So Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett gave me my first break in the business. I mean, I got the crap kicked out of me down in Memphis. I mean, Memphis was wild, man. But that was my first territory. And then they asked me if I thought about, traveling to all the different territories, the early territories, which I was able to do. So I went to Jim Crockett Promotions right after that over in the Carolinas, and worked over there quite a bit, but they would send a lot of us. They would send us other places, like Louisiana or Florida, Georgia Championship Wrestling. We'd go out to World Class out in Dallas, hit Portland, Oregon a couple of times for Don Owens, and eventually we made our way up to the AWA and worked a little bit for Vern Gagne, and I'd wrestled, in a lot of these different little territories, and got to know a lot of the guys. And I traveled quite a bit with Buddy Landell, and that was interesting, to say the least. I love Buddy to death, but he gets you in trouble, But I did all the territory stuff, and then finally went back to the Carolinas, and Jim Crockett had bought World Championship Wrestling. He basically, World Championship Wrestling was the NWA. I mean, even, in the early 80s, Georgia Championship Wrestling called themselves World Championship Wrestling. And he had bought the Atlanta territory, and then he had started buying up all the other little territories after Vince decided that he was going to monopolize the country. So Jim Crockett, started buying. He bought Florida, he bought Georgia, he bought Louisiana. Tried to buy Texas, but that didn't work out. Fritz von Erich, when I worked at Fritz von Erich, he was something else too. He was one of those chiseled, grizzled, just old school, in your face, kick your ass, that kind of guy. But I was able to do a lot of work on TBS, and that was really cool. Was being able to do that. Spent some time there. Had an opportunity to go to the WWF, and I took it, which was probably the stupidest thing I could have ever done. I tell Aaron Stevens a lot, he and I talk a lot. It's like I told Aaron, I said, that's the worst 8 months of my life. That was absolutely horrible. So I called Jody Hamilton, who was the original assassin back in the day, and I begged him for my job back. And he graciously let me come back. At that time, there was a few of us that always worked. I tell stories all the time. One of the biggest stories I ever tell, this was right after I came back. I was in the ring. I worked Scott Steiner, and it was a pretty good match. But at that time, I was a big dude, man. I bet I weighed 310 pounds. I mean, I was big. And I got called to the office. Nick Patrick came and got me. He said, well, Dusty and Jody want to see you. Nick, Jody was his dad. He said, Dad wants to see you. I said, okay. So I went in there and I sat down, and Dusty looks at me and he tells me straight up. He said, kid, he said, we really like your work, but you're just too GD fat to wrestle. And I wait a minute. I told Tommy Dreamer this story one time, and he fell out of his chair. But it's like Dusty Rhodes is telling me I'm too fat to wrestle. Okay. Well, he told me straight up though. He said if you'll lose the weight and put the work in, you come back down here, we'll sign you. And I was pissed off, man. I was hot because I knew I could wrestle, but I knew I was a big guy. But I went home. I lost about 87 pounds.
Ooh.
This was, and I lost it quick too. I lost it in about 3 months. Went back, and Jody had been fired. Not Jody, but Dusty had been fired. So Dusty was gone. He had become a plumber. So
Yeah.
I went back, and Jody was just, oh man, you look great. You did a great job, man. Blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, okay, cool. He said, well, Dusty's gone. And I said, yeah, unfortunately. And unfortunately, Ole was the booker at that point. And I didn't get along well with Ole. But Jody told me straight up, he said, well, we're going to go ahead and sign you because we promised it. And they did. And I was able to be in WCW in some form or fashion for almost 6 years, and when bookers would get fired, I'd have a job, I always worked. I mean, we were 7 days a week, and it was a lot of fun because at that time, WCW was the hottest thing there was, and Crockett ran 2 separate shows. I mean, he'd run a B show, he'd run an A show, and, we'd flip flop back and forth where we went. And, we'd either be on the show with the world champion or the U.S. champion. So that was interesting. And one night in Marietta, Georgia, Jim Cornette comes up to me and he said, how much longer you got on your deal? I said, I got a few months. He said, well, they're not going to re-sign you. And I said, well, how the hell do you know? He said, just trust me. I know. He said, we're getting ready to do something in Tennessee, Knoxville to be exact. He said, I would like to bring you in and have you work in the office and also in ring. So that was the birth of Smoky Mountain Championship Wrestling. And so I ended up with Smoky Mountain, and he gave me my first office job. So that was pretty cool. And, in the meantime, we did our thing for a couple of years, and Jim and I had a falling out. It was over a match that I really wasn't particularly fond of, and I don't mind saying it. It was against the Thrill Seekers, and that was Lance Storm and Chris Jericho. And at that time, I'd been in the business probably maybe a little over 10, 11, 12 years, something like that. And Jericho was still green as grass, and he's trying to call the match, and I wasn't going for it. And I told Jim, I said, "You find me somebody else to work." And then, of course, Jericho goes and he tells his story to Jim. But anyway, Jim and I are reconciled, and to this day, he and I are really good friends. As far as the promotion end of it, it was a fluke. 2016, I was asked to do a show for the football program here where I live. And at that time, we didn't even have a name. I mean, it was just, hey, the poster said professional wrestling live, that kind of thing. And we put the show together, and we put 1,000 people in the high school down in Decatur, Tennessee. And it's like, wow, okay. And we started doing a few more here, a few more there. Then we started doing 3 or 4 a year. And the last show we did was the November before COVID. And once COVID hit, we shut down for a while, and then we came back, and we started doing it as it was Joe Cazana Promotions presents the Wide World of Wrestling. So what I did, I brought back my grandfather's wrestling show, and we ran with that up until Billy Corgan made us an NWA territory. So that's kind of sort of in a nutshell. That's a long 10 minutes. Woo. Got to get a drink after that. So that's pretty much, like I said, that's the Reader's Digest condensed version of how this all happened.
So, Wade, you got a question?
No, I've just been listening, man. It's awesome to hear about this because, like I am a bit younger. So the territories, I do go back and rewatch, and done a lot of research on the territories, but it's nice to, hear stories, especially from somebody who was actually part of, back in the day of wrestling. And so it's, like I said, I'm just listening. I'll admit the territories and stuff. I'm still kind of, I'm green in little aspects of it because, again, since I am younger, I don't think I really could wrap my head around how many, territories or, this was here, these guys own these, this was up here. And because, again, when me growing up, it was all, hey, WWF, WWE, WCW until it died off, and then there you go, have fun. And that was it. That was your wrestling.
Well, you got to remember too, back in those days, there was literally hundreds of territories. And in Tennessee itself, Tennessee had 5 territories. I mean, just in Tennessee by itself had 5 territories, and each. I mean, honestly, my grandfather could not stand Nick Goulas, and Nick Goulas ran the Chattanooga market and the Nashville market. My granddad hated his guts, but that's how Greek guys were. They, whatever. It was. It's one of those things to where you go into a territory. Back then, you stay for 2-3 months. That's an average. Then you go to another territory and you get completely, rebranded, reset, whatever they wanted to call it, because they didn't know what we were doing. I could come to Knoxville and I could be the nastiest, meanest heel in the territory, head out to, I don't know. Let's go to Memphis and this, same territory or same area, just a different territory, and be a big, huge baby face. Memphis fans wouldn't know the difference. The only time that they ever figured it all out is when the Superstation started, going out all over the world. And that's kind of how that all happened. But the territory system back then, it really truly was. You had a centralized office, which was, again, when you see by the book by my name, I legitimately have a rule book. I actually do have this. And the main office for the NWA back then was in St. Louis. So I mean, you
Yeah.
had St. Louis, you had Houston. I mean, you had Atlanta, Charlotte. Even Vince McMahon Sr. was a member of the National Wrestling Alliance, even though he ran the Worldwide Wrestling Federation back then. He was still a member of the National Wrestling Alliance, just like Vern Gagne was, just like 90% of the country. They were the NWA. That's why the NWA is the oldest and the most well respected, company there is. And this era of the NWA is no different. I mean, the Lightning One era, under the watchful eye of Billy Corgan, is we don't take a back seat to anybody. The WWE may be a hell of a lot bigger than us, which they are. AEW may be a hell of a lot bigger, but I got news for all of them. We've got talent that can work circles around what they have. And we are every bit as good as you see on Monday night or Friday night. And I will go to my grave telling everybody and singing the praises of the National Wrestling Alliance.
So,
Real quick. I'm sorry, Bear.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because we're talking about territories, and now I'm starting to get a little fanboy, and so because I live in Fort Worth, so I'm about 20 minutes from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, you're Von Erich territory.
That's what I was starting kind of getting into.
Yeah.
I was just kind of, because I've done as much research as I can about the Texas areas and, of course, the Von Erichs and all that. And, sadly, the Sportatorium is not a thing anymore over
I know,
here.
man.
So,
that's terrible, too.
Yeah. It's just an empty – it's literally just an empty parking lot, man.
It was like what a rotten building it was, but God almighty, what history was in there.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You could just drive over there and just stand in an empty parking lot surrounded by trees, and people pass you like, "What is that guy doing?" And it's like, but it's
channeling his
really
inner
cool.
Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just, I guess, I mean, whatever you can really tell me a little bit about, the Texas territories. Any little, what you didn't like, or just anything about it. I'm just very curious because I'm born and raised Texan. So
you're a Texas guy. Well, our one of our big office guys and lead announcer, Joe Galley, he lives in San Antonio. He's a big Texas guy.
Yeah.
Rodney Mack and Jazz own a territory in Texas, and oh God, you talk about good people. Rodney Mack and Jazz are two of the best. Both deserve to be in a Hall of Fame somewhere, sometime. But as far as the Von Erich territory, I didn't spend a lot of time in Texas. Probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 shows that I did out there for Von Erich. I think I've been to Texas more with the NWA than I did with the Von Erichs.
Yeah.
But the Von Erichs, they were, I mean, honestly, and all BS aside, they were like God in Dallas. I mean, we're really all over Texas. They were the ultimate good guys. I mean, these kids, and my God, man, they were over like you wouldn't believe. And when the Freebirds came down, it was like, my God, the Von Erichs really, they got to that they got to that Thor level, they got to where they were I mean, they were Thor and Zeus, and I mean these guys were gods. Yeah. And the Freebirds, awesome. Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts, they made the Von Erichs even bigger than they already were. But I mean, honestly, out there, the Von Erichs were always tops. I mean, they were, you weren't going to outdo the Von Erichs. Heel wise, you had Gino Hernandez, who was God, he was good. Chris Adams was another one that was really good. And I mean, I know you guys, seen this Dark Side of the Ring stuff, and they portray, they portray him pretty dead on. They truly do. Uh, but it's these Texas was big, man. And people don't realize just how big Texas is. I mean, I'm not talking about land mass, but the Texas territory. I mean, David Von Erich passed away in Japan, and Kerry won the world title. In front of 40 some odd thousand at Texas State Fair at the Cotton Bowl, I think it was. It wasn't at Texas Stadium. I think it was at the Cotton Bowl. But my God, man, it was big. But wrestling in the Sportatorium, it was it was hotter than 40 hells in the summertime. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It was a old wood building with an old wood floor, and Fritz was the only one that had an air conditioner.
Yeah.
But Texas was fun. It was a fun place to be. Like I said, I didn't spend a heck of a lot of time out there. I was able to go out there. I probably had, I don't know, 10, 12 matches, while I was out there. The bulk of them were with Chris Adams. I worked him a few times. A couple of times I worked him in Dallas, a couple of times in Fort Worth. Did Houston. I think we did Houston maybe one time when I was out there. But it was just mostly when I'd go into the territories like that, it wouldn't be for a long length of time, because we'd end up, like I said, going back to Atlanta or going back to Charlotte or Knoxville or Birmingham or wherever it was we were going. And we were on the road 5, 6, 7 days a week. We might I might get back to Knoxville 2 days a week if I was lucky, but one day was a rest day. The next day was a travel day.
Yeah.
But Texas,
awesome.
Texas was a place all to itself. To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, you had your world class wrestling out there. You had Paul Bosch out there that was with Houston. I mean, Texas was just its own place.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, it still is, man. We've got some big heads, man.
Dude, Dallas, Texas is without a doubt the most spread out place I've ever been in my life. I mean,
yes, sir. There you go.
Listen, from the airport to the OC Arena that we wrestle in, it's almost an hour, but you're still in Dallas. It's like, my God,
Yeah.
And the Uber drivers don't like driving you out there. That's just it.
No. I'm telling you.
You try to talk to them, it's like, we speak no English.
Yeah, dude.
But you're going to learn it now. But Texas is a place all to itself, dude.
Texas, and it's still like that, man. And there's so much. Anytime you really talk about wrestling around here, people, Von Erichs, that's always the main thing. And I remember, I was cleaning out a house. I was helping a buddy out clean out this house. That's his job. He flips houses. But I was going through stuff, and then all of a sudden, I found one of those Zippo lighters, and I still have it. I got I think it's at my job. I kept it in my toolbox. It's in mint condition, and it says engraved on the front. It has a guy in a headlock, and it says "Taken by Force" by Fritz Von Erich.
That's cool.
And I saw that, and I'm like, "What did I just come across?"
Hang on,
I still have it. It's untouched. It's, again, mint condition. It has no scratches. And I was like, what did I just come across? And I talked to some people about it, and they were like, oh, yeah, dude, they were the Von Erichs were huge. And I was like, I knew the Von Erichs are huge. It's just look what I found, So, yeah, I appreciate you telling me that. I was just curious about Texas.
Well, and AJ spent the last few months challenging the Von Erichs to a tag team match, but he hadn't heard anything from them anyway, so. Oh, yeah. That would be fun. The Von Erichs against the Country Gentlemen.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It'd be the next Freebird deal.
Right.
Don't forget, I still wrestle from time to time. Why, I don't know.
So let me ask you this. With your experience with the old territory system and the new territory system, one thing that I always like to tell people is that the new territory system is better in this fact that you can see any wrestling anywhere because of the internet, and you get to learn, versus in the older territory system, unless you had cable or satellite, you just got to see what was in your area.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing for younger wrestlers to get to see and get to go travel and get to try their skills in different places. How do you feel about that?
Well, let me answer Joseph Hughes's question real quick. He asked if Kerry was out. Kerry's in the match at Hard Times against us, if that tells you anything. So it's the AT Kerry version at Hard Times against us, because Silas Mason is got Brian Idle again. Maybe this time he'll break the other collarbone. Oh, that was a nasty break right there, man. Brian had a nasty break. As far as the question was like the differences or whatever.
Yes, sir.
This let me see if I can make it as simple as possible. Back then, territories, man, it was dog eat dog. It was cutthroat. It was it was that kind of professional wrestling. It was the old timers, pretty much, kicking all of us in the head, not wanting us around. Nowadays, with this set of territories, the cool thing is the way that these territories are being run. Billy is pretty much, he's pretty much, he's a hands-on kind of guy, and he has a hand in a lot of what the territories do. He lets us do our own thing as far as the talent. We do all have a certain amount of NWA superstars that are on the shows. But I think that the way the difference is now is we have what we call a territory czar, and we gave him that nickname. But we kind of, if there's issues, if there's problems, we go directly to him, and he takes care of it. Whether it's a travel issue, whether it's a personality issue, whether it's a money issue, whether it's somebody's got a hangnail. I mean, he pretty much, he handles all that. But I think I think the territories now, I would just say that they're cleaner, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yes.
It's more, things are more above board, as opposed to being, deals cut under the table and hey, let me give you this $100 to go out here and do this. It's not like that anymore. And for the most part, all of us get along. I kid with EC3 a lot, and I tell him, I said, the only reason that you became a territory a month before we did is because you got a date quicker than we did. And and then he says, you know what? He said, you and I are going to be in the next death match from hell. He said, you're not going to be in Cardona. So wait till you and I get in there and do it. I'm not getting in there with light tubes and all that other crap. But no, I kid with EC3 a lot about that. And but Exodus Pro's a great territory. KFW, man, Kenzie and Kylie and Tommy up there, they do a great job. Like I said, Exodus with EC3 and Noah, his right hand man up there. NWA Chicago, God Almighty. I mean, Billy is major hands on with that. But Texas now is with Jazz and Rodney Mack, and it's the Dog Pound, and of course TSW. They work together out there. Golly bum, man. Trevor Murdoch and Leland Race in Missouri. I mean, how can you go wrong with Trevor and Leland? And now the new territory out in New Mexico, which is crazy that we've got a territory in New Mexico. But it's it gets us out on the western end of the country without having to go to California. But no, I think that the territories now are a little more, shall we say, by the book, if that makes any sense.
Yes. It, for me and for what I love to watch wrestling and stuff, I love to put more eyes on the indie scene, the NWA. It's it's such a good feeling because it's more of letting people who just know about WWE or AEW. It's like there are more great wrestling promotions out there.
Yep.
Because a lot of people don't even know that they have promotions in their town or close to them. And that's one thing I think that we at the Wrestling Society Network love to do is just promote and let people know you have options. Don't just take the big ones at the end all be all.
Yeah.
And like I said, with man, I've seen so much and enjoyed. Like Sunday, I was at the School of Morton,
Okay.
and I
Yeah, we're
really
getting ready to
enjoyed.
do a big, huge show up there.
Yes, yes,
Yep.
and I've got a chance to talk to some of the guys and just enjoyed the energy around it because I think it's an energy around wrestling now. You can feel it anywhere you go, and you just get that buzz. And it reminds me so much of the early days of the territories when
Yeah.
I grew up, and I've been just enjoying it.
Well, good. I'm glad you do. Here's a big question. Do you or have you subscribed, and it's free, to our YouTube channel?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
Good.
yes, you know
What
that.
about you, Blade?
Yeah, I am subscribed to y'all.
Good, good. Well, then you can follow our stories because we still tell stories. Uh, you know, the only story WWE's told in the last 10 years is the bloodline. I mean, and it is a good
Yeah.
story. But we tell stories. The NWA tells stories. I mean, we've had this thing going with the Southern Six now for God 3 or 4 months. They're something. Silas Mason, I give him a lot of credit for what he's done and what he's doing and what he's going to do. I think that he's a former, or not a former. I think he's a future world heavyweight champion. Um, Alex Taylor's already a world champion, but I think as much as I used to really like Kerry Morton, just something about him just runs all over me now. I used to tell him, I said, you know what, man, you'd make such a great heel. And now he's doing it, and he's really gone over the top with it. No, but Kerry does a good job. Ricky did a good job training him. It's really really cool. Uh, but yeah, the School of Morton, they're fixing to have a big show. I think it's God, I think it's like April. What is it? April 6th.
Yes,
Ours,
I think
ours
it's
is the
April.
4th. They got a seminar up there with Santino on the 5th, and then
Yep.
it goes on the 6th. We're not part of the seminar as far as the NWA's not, but the NWA territories are going to be there to just it's a territorial evaluation is what we're doing. It's us, Exodus Pro, and KFW. So from NWA JCP, it's myself, AJ, and KC, um, and then on the Exodus side, it's Carson Drake and Aaron Stevens, and then on the KFW side, Tommy Henry and Kenzie Page will be there. But we're strictly there. We're not participants whatsoever in the seminar. We're just there to see if we can find a diamond in the rough. that's why we're there, and we're also there to after the show or after the seminar on Friday go eat barbecue. So we're gonna we're gonna go eat barbecue. But that's a big deal. I mean, it was. I mean, I got permission to from the main office to be able to do this, as far as a territorial eval, and I'm hoping that we can, between the what 6 of us, I'm hoping that we might be able to find 1 or 2 that we might be able to even bring into the territories and try to do something with them.
Yeah, I mean,
and then I'm going to slap TKO around on Sunday because he pissed me off.
I'm actually looking so forward to the card. My plan is to definitely be there. And
are you coming down to our show on the 4th?
Yeah, I'm trying.
It's huge, man. This show we're doing on April the 4th is huge. Amy Berryman needs to get herself over here to East Tennessee. I mean, she comes every now and then, but for this show, shoot, man, I think that the Country Gentlemen are wrestling Carson Drake and Aaron Williams for the U.S. Tag Team titles, so that should be big. Tyler Shoup is part of the show. He's defending his championship. God, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to let me look at the card, man.
Go ahead.
I can't for the life of me remember what's what, and it drives me crazy that I can't remember, and I apologize.
No,
let's see here.
When you have big shows and you're doing so much, this
is going to be huge. I know everybody knows who J-Rod is, right?
Yes.
Well, J-Rod's going to be here. And J-Rod is going to be in the ring with the returning Freya the Slayer.
Oh, wow.
Kylie Page will be defending the NWA JCP Women's Championship. I know you know who Tess Warren is.
Yes.
So she gets a shot at Tess. Jaden Newman from Chattanooga, he'll be here. I'm not sure who he's wrestling. And the Troublemakers are actually going to be on the card as well. And I don't know if you've seen the Troublemakers, but that's exactly what they are. They're a couple of troublemakers who like to stir the pot. The only people that stir the pot here is us. But it's going to be a pretty good card here, and tickets are actually on sale now. All they got to do is just people just send me a message through Messenger, and then we'll go from there.
All right, that sounds great. One of the things I pride myself in this year, I plan on going to more wrestling events and show my face and just be able to enjoy the matches and hopefully get a chance to talk to different people. And
I'm not wrestling that night here in Decatur, so I'll be happy to talk to you.
Cool. And
Blade, we're just a plane ride away from you.
Yeah,
it's a straight shot right into Chattanooga or Knoxville.
Right.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'll come up. I mean, I'll fly up there. I used to go to Tennessee to to see family, but it's been years. But I'll fly up to Tennessee and then I'll come out and say what's up to you guys and watch some local shows around there.
It's going to be a good weekend for wrestling that weekend. So
yeah.
Oh,
and Danny Deals will also be here. So, and I know you guys know who Danny Deals is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the pages. When we first started to get out and start trying to put our name out there, the first person that ever showed me love was Kenzie Page. She's
the best.
She cut a promo for us. She gave me a signed autograph, and every time I go now, she always cuts a promo for me. And the whole family are just really, really very kind and just generous. Love them to death. My wife, who wasn't really into wrestling, she loves it, and she loves going to the smaller shows because of the interaction.
Right.
She just loves it.
Well, the Page sisters are good kids. They really are. Kylie, we think so much of Kylie here at NWAJCP that we're having a new women's championship made, and it's going to be named the Alexa.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, Kenzie's got the Burke, and I don't see her losing that Burke until she wants to.
Right.
She's that good. But yeah, but Kylie's the queen of the territories, and I gave her that name a long time ago, and of course, Exodus can't stand the fact that I call her that. They think that they've got the best women's wrestler or champion up there, and hey, look, Tiffany Nieves is a great champion. She's a great wrestler. Um, and honestly, that's my wife's favorite is Tiffany Nieves. She and Tiffany just they for some reason they just hit it off, and I hadn't figured it out yet, but. My wife is the only non-wrestler that's ever cut a promo for Tiffany. It's crazy. But yeah, Tiffany's really, really good. But we just feel like that Kylie is she's the queen. I mean, she really is, and she has come a long way. I remember when she graduated from JPWA. At that time, they were doing their graduations at our place we had in Sweetwater, and she was part of the very first class that ever graduated at our show in Sweetwater. And I'll never forget. I mean, she was just a little timid little girl. I mean, it was really, really, really just incredible. But she's come such a long way, man. Her and Kenzie both, and I remember Kenzie when she was doing her thing with AEW, and they never gave her a fair shot there. And then she comes to the NWA and she busts her ass, and she does a great job. Tommy Henry, the promoter up at KFW, for so many years, he has done a great job. He and his wife both really raised two really, really terrific young ladies, and I think the world of both of them. And this is the first time in history, believe it or not, that the NWA's really ever had a legitimate set of brothers and sisters on the same roster, which is incredible. That doesn't happen,
Yes.
especially when you're in the wrestling business, and of course, they're not really brothers, they're not really sisters. Well, these are really brothers and sisters, and they all four get along so well. Matter of fact, KC and Kenzie are the best of friends. I mean, they are both, trainers up at School of Morton. And it's just, if you had actually told me that Kenzie and KC would be the best of friends, I'd have said, no way. It would have been Kylie and KC, but because they're closer to, in age. But Kenzie and Kylie both are terrific people. I remember when KC had his debut with the NWA, Kenzie was the first person that ran up to me and said, well, how did it go? And I said, it was great. And here comes Kylie. And she just, was it good? I said, yeah, it was really, really good, but yeah. And I've said it a million times. Joe Cazana had the best debut of anybody that I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not saying it because he's my son. I'm saying it because it's fact. I mean, Jesus Christ, he got thrown into that match in Nashville. I'll never forget it, man. It was right after, 75. And I found out that Anthony Andrews had walked out on AJ. And, of course, that was terrible that they were trying to scramble to figure out what they were going to do with this tag team title return match. And for the longest time, I thought it was going to be me and AJ against Daisy and Talos. And I thought, oh, God, another giant. I can't wrestle another giant. Elegante was tough. But, I remember so well, Billy comes to me and he says, Joe, he said, I'm going to throw it out there because I mean that's everybody knows. I said, can Jackson wrestle? Because that's Casey's name is his birth name. And I said, well, I said he's greener than goose shit. I said, but he's Dr. Tom trained, so I think he'll be okay. And he said, okay, and that's the last I heard of it. And the next day, it's like I get there to the studio, and it's like, okay, Jackson's going to be in the match, and I'm thinking, oh boy. And Billy actually went to my wife and asked my wife and said, "Would it be okay if we changed his name?" So it was Billy that gave him the KC name, and I've always asked Billy. I said, "What if she'd have said no?" It was it was a big deal, and he did a great job. And like I said, the girls were the first two people that even asked how it was, because they didn't get a chance to see it. They were too busy getting their makeup on and their eyelids and everything else.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was awesome. The NWA is just a great place to be. It's a great place to work. If you're a professional wrestler and you aspire to move on to bigger and better things from what you're doing, man, you can't go wrong with the territory system. You get into the territory system, and that pretty much, that slides you into the main show, to NWA proper, and it's just a cool place to be right now.
So, if I was a aspiring person who wanted to get into wrestling,
Yep,
where would I go and to get
where do you live?
good training?
Listen, I am a Dr. Tom guy. Dr. Tom and I have been friends for a very, very long time. If you're in the Knoxville area, you're crazy if you don't go to Dr. Tom Pritchard, to JPWA. If you're in Upper East Tennessee and you want to learn from a U.S. champion and the world champion, go to School of Morton. Because both the schools are great. They're far enough apart to where they don't hurt each other. You may have people in Knoxville that want to go to School of Morton just to train with Kenzie or KC. By all means, please do that, because they're really, really, really great. But I like I said, Doc and I have been friends a long time. Even if my son, didn't train up there at SOM, I'd still say SOM was a great place to be. So those are my two picks. They're the only two picks that I would pick. I don't care what part of the country you're in. Take whichever option you wanted. Pick your poison. Either way, you're going to get training that you're not going to get anywhere else, except for maybe the performance center. All these fly-by-nighters, and you all know exactly who I'm talking about, that think that they can train, or they think they can put shows together. I'm sorry, but there are certain shows out there that give legitimate shows a bad name, and they train or claim that they train, and what they do is they just take money. That's just my own personal opinion. Now, to throw one more school out there that's also a reputable place to be, and this is for people that are like in Virginia or way up in Bristol, and that's Net Pro Studios. Our esteemed play-by-play man, Dangerous Dan Matthews, actually runs that school, and he's also Memphis trained. So he knows his stuff, but that's way, way, way up that way. I mean, that's 200 miles from where I am. So, but if you're in this area where we are now, JPWA or SOM, those are the two places to go. And if you're up that way towards Kingsport, Bristol, any place in Virginia, Big Stone Gap and all these places, yeah, Net Pro Studios.
That's good to hear. So, with my last question is, what does the future look like for Joe Cazana Promotions?
Well, let's get the name right first. It's NWA Joe Cazana Promotions.
My apology. I'm
That's
so
okay.
used
Don't
to
worry
it. I
about it.
always forget
No,
about the NWA part.
that's okay. Um, as long as Billy wants me to do what I'm doing, I'm going to do it. If he pretty much he told us in the beginning. He said it's your all's job to find the next big thing, and we have found some talent. I know Exodus has, KFW has. Uh, it's just it's in our laps. The next generation of stars in the NWA is not going to be a Joe Cazana or an Austin Idol or guys like that. I mean, we're way beyond our prime. Uh, you've got the vets in there now. Your Aaron Stevens, Trevor Murdoch, Mike Knox. EC3. All these guys. These are God. You talk about sitting under a learning tree with these guys. They're this generation now, but they're not going to be around forever either. Uh, Again, our job is to find the young talent. We have taken, like with us here, the Kazanas are the U.S. champions. They're both young, and they're mean and nasty and everything. But that's the future for NWA-JCP is the same as it would be for Exodus or KFW. As long as Billy wants us to do this, we're going to do it. That's just right now. It's just good business. We're doing our best to find the like I said, the diamonds in the rough. I just think that there's so much talent in East Tennessee, especially that's wasted, and I think that there's so much talent, in the state of Tennessee that's wasted because they just don't know any better. I mean, you've got a lot of talented people in East Tennessee that, for a lack of a better word, and again, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They work these mud shows, and they're really too good for them. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that's a lot better than where they are, and it's our job to find them. Uh, the only thing I tell the folks is, you want to come into NWA JCP, you want to get your shot, that's fine. If I don't know you, send me 30 seconds worth of your highlights. Send me 30 seconds worth of promo, and I'll take a look at it. I'm not going to look at a 10-minute match. I'm not going to listen to a 5-minute long promo. I want to see your highlights. Uh, we've got a kid by the name of Alex Bryant that has done some work, really a lot of work over in the Carolinas. He sent us a 30-second deal. We booked him on the next show, and he's coming to this next show. And he is one of those young up-and-coming guys. Tyler Shoup is another really, really young and up-and-comer. He does things that will amaze people. But like I said, as long as Billy wants us to do this, as long as I still feel comfortable doing it, as long as I'm still able to do it, then I'm gonna do it. At some point, I'm going to turn NWA JCP straight over to AJ and KC, and they're gonna take it to the next level, and they're going to continue to do exactly what it is they do. So, I mean, I'm almost 60 years old. How much longer do I really have? How much more can I do? I mean, it's like I remember Billy asking me. He said, "Do you think you can still wrestle some?" This was 8-9 months ago. And I said, well, I still feel like I can maybe do a little something. I might be able to contribute some stuff. and I've wrestled almost every show that we've had since he asked me that question. And that's okay. I mean, it's fun. It's given me an opportunity to tag with the boys. It's given me an opportunity to get in the ring with some wrestlers that I would not normally ever be able to get in the ring with. I mean, I've been able to get in the ring with Carson Drake and the Slime Balls, or two guys that we got in the ring with. They're crazy kids. But I've been able to do that. I mean, I've been in the ring with the Southern Six. Listen, I'm about as afraid of Kerry Morton as I was his dad. You know. Well, yeah, Joe Hughes wants me in a death match with EC3. Now, you may see a match with me and EC3. Another thing I tell EC3 a lot is, you're the only wrestler that can wrestle down to my speed. Now we're just slow. But no, I mean, in all honesty, I'm gonna keep going as long as I can. I know when I'm gonna be. I know right now. I can tell you. I mean, I won't tell you, but I know when I'm gonna be finished. I know what my last match is. I know all this now. I mean, Billy told me a long time ago, you let me know when you're ready, and he said, I'll promote it. And I said, you got it. And like I said, I know when it's going to be. I know who I'm going to be wrestling, but nobody's going to know until that time. But I've got a little time left, just a little bit.
Go.
That's a little bit, but I'm gonna. The future for JCP is bright. The future for the territory system is bright. The future for the NWA is really bright. And if you saw the announcement yesterday, you know that Natty Neidhart's going to be right here in the NWA at Cup. That is huge because she is, still with the WWE. And as a matter of fact, I think she just signed a new contract with the WWE.
She did.
And she
did.
Listen, she can still go. She's always been able to go.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to wrestle her. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that I'm going to get in the ring with her. But I know a few women that absolutely would love the opportunity. I don't know who she's going to be wrestling. I don't think it really matters. I mean, we got a great roster of women. It's starting with our champion and working our way down. I mean, my God, Kenzie Page, Natalia Markova, Kylie Page, Tiffany Nieves, God, my big mama. It's just a roster full of talent. The women's division, and Billy says it a lot, the women's division in the NWA doesn't take a backseat to anybody. Our tag team division doesn't take a backseat to anybody. You think about our tag team division. I mean, with Murdoch, Knox, with us, you got Kratos and Odinson. My God, I mean, you got Thor and the Incredible Hulk. I mean, these Kratos and Odinson, the Immortals, they're great. You got the Slime Balls. I mean, Southern Six. I mean, look. I mean, you got the Looks That Kill. I mean, Markova and Brian Idol, for God's sakes. So, I mean, the future is bright for all of us. It's just there's just a lot of things that are going to have to fall into place, and there's a lot of things that are in play right now. And I think that just stay tuned. The rest of 2025 is going to be interesting.
Yes, it is. And as a wrestling fan, I know I can speak for Blade that, man, we're just enjoying the ride and having fun.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's a blast, and it is fun right now. And I'm going to ride this bull until it bucks me, and it's just either that or until my wife tells me to quit. So, but like I said, our show's April 4th. We got another big show on April the 6th. I get to slap TKO around. I don't like him anyway. Santino cracks me up. He's going to be in the ring with us, and we're gonna show him why the NWA is better than where he is. and you know, I don't know who their partner is, but I've got the country gentleman. So, you know, what more can a man want, right?
Right. And I thank you for taking the time out to bless us with your presence, giving the younger people who watch this show a history lesson, because
You're welcome, and you know, just if you know you want me to come back at some point, just holler, let me know. I'm sure the boys will be happy to come on when and if you can narrow them down to wherever the hell it is they are. Just who knows, but I appreciate you guys having me on here, and I saw Amy Berryman's looking for plane tickets. Yeah, that's a good weekend to come in right there. So yeah,
I might have to look
up with her and come on in.
I was gonna say I might have to look for some plane tickets. I think I have some extra PTO at work I could take for that weekend. That'd be a nice time.
And thank you for all the. I saw a lot of questions that the fans had. I wasn't able to answer a lot of them. There's some of them that they asked that I'm not at liberty to talk about. The biggest thing is when I'm going to quit. So I'm not at liberty to tell anybody when I'm retiring. That's going to be that'll all be coming in focus real soon. I've still got I still got some time left.
That's good. And again, we thank you. And like I said, I definitely be seeing you in person, because that weekend I do plan on being at all the shows. So
good. Hey, and go Road Runners! How about that?
Yes, sir.
Go Road Runners! I never beat them. Never.
Really?
Never. Beat Central every time we played them. Beat Bearden every time we played them, but we couldn't beat Austin East. God, I don't know what it was. I guess Leroy Thompson was just too fast.
Oh my God! Yeah, he was.
McKenzie's wore me out. So you know.
Well,
that's another conversation for another day.
Yes, sir. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, fans, and thank you, Blade, for joining me, helping me out. It was a great experience. We definitely be doing it again.
And remember, everybody out there, and this is in character, man, remember this: when it's all said and done, and you are out there breaking all the rules and breaking all the laws, you must do things by the book.
Yes. I'm good. We're good. That was awesome.
Perfect.
That was awesome.
I should have got the white hat and threw it on. I
was gonna say that would have been the cherry on top, man. Oh man, yeah. When Bear told me he needed a little I could use a co-host for the interview. I was like, oh dude, come on. Yeah, I'll do it 100%. I'd love to sit and listen from the Golden Boy, man. I knew it'd be a huge history lesson, because usually on these things I'm the one who's always blabbing his mouth, but on this one I just wanted to take it in like a sponge, man. It was great to listen to you talk, man. And
thank you.
I'm gonna go and watch old territory footage now. But Bear said, we really appreciate it.
Are we still live, Bear?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell everybody to go watch my YouTube channel, for God's sakes. I've got 7 seasons out there.
Yeah, you heard the man. Do not make him have to come look for you.
Oh my God! 7 seasons and about 70 episodes. I mean, my God, tons of content.
I can tell y'all this: both his kids are big as hell, and you don't want problems with them. I'm telling
you. What happened to me?
Thank you again for watching.
It was a pleasure, guys.
And you never know who we'll have on, what specials, who. This is what A Bird Thought is all about. So thank y'all, and we'll see you next week, same time, same channel.
Thank you.